Hey everyone, welcome back. So I hope you guys had a great Friday. It's Saturday right now. A couple of things we're going to talk about, obviously, is PayPal. It's in the news. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it, what I think about it, and how some are calling that Bitcoin solves this. We'll have a question on that, so I'll have my thoughts on that, and we'll get through it. We'll also take a look at the Bitcoin miners, see how they did for the week against Bitcoin. So we'll take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin's down, like I said, yesterday and the day before. On the short term, on the 1 hour chart, it's looking bearish, and it's still looking bearish right now, so we'll take a look at it here. And as always, this is not financial advice. For entertainment only, do your own research. I'm investing in coins and companies for full disclosure. And if you enjoy this type of content, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button. Helps me out tremendously. And let's get into it here now. So here's Bitcoin on the 1 hour chart right now. We can see here it's at 19,297 currently. And it has fallen. The RSI is at 27. A little bit earlier in yesterday, or right around noon, we were at an RSI of 24, and the price was actually higher, while now the RSI is a little bit higher, but the price is actually lower. So currently, we're still looking at it as bearish short term. Long term, we're still looking bearish right now until we get a reversal where we're seeing a little bit the opposite, where price is going up, RSI is either holding flat or going down, but until then, we are still bearish, unfortunately. We did also go below our support here, 19,500, which we've been battling it here for quite a while here since yesterday. We've been kind of bouncing off of it here, and we finally fell below it, which isn't good. So I think we're going to be falling a little bit more, possibly down towards the 19,000 mark, maybe 18,750, somewhere around there before we start bouncing, but we'll see where we actually end up at. So we'll see how the weekend goes. Right now, it's not looking good. So Ethereum's also down right now. It is down to 1,306. It is also, as you can see here on the RSI, it's down to 25. Prior to that, it was at 31. Price was much higher. Price is lower. So we're still short-term bearish on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so let's take a quick peek at the story here. Obviously, that's got the internet all abuzz. So PayPal currently has pulled back, says it won't fine customers $2,500 for misinformation after backlash. Yeah, there was a lot of backlash, especially on Twitter, if you followed it all. But here's what it had to say. So PayPal has backtracked on its new restricted activity policy, clarifying that it won't fine $2,500 per user who engages in misinformation or hatred against protected identities. The company claimed the update went out in error and that it never intended to penalize account holders on these grounds. Well, okay, so here's my thoughts on that. So obviously they have thought about it. For one, if they didn't think about it, it wouldn't have never been written down. So they actually had the process of communication, internal communication about this, where it was either put into a document, but then it was obviously vetoed, or they went through the process of, should we approve this? Should we not approve this? They decided not to approve it, but somehow it still got out. So that's obviously a little bit disconcerting there, that they would even think about putting something like that into the user policy, especially being a large company as they are. They service obviously a lot of millions of customers, users, and because of their viewpoints or whatnot, they're going to penalize customers $2,500. That's just outrageous, right? So that's kind of where I'm standing on it right now. There are obviously others that have chimed in on this. We'll take a look at it here, but here's what it said. So an AUP notice recently went out in error that included incorrect information. PayPal is not fining people for misinformation, and this language was never intended to be inserted in our policy. Our teams are working to correct our policy pages. We're sorry for the confusion this has caused, right? So this is obviously a spokesperson told that to the National Review. And this goes back to what I was saying here, that they actually went through the process of talking about this, possibly implementing it, but never got to the point where they said they were going to implement it. They just basically got vetoed somewhere along the line. But still, they talked about it. So that's concerning. Large companies should never, ever fine users for their own free speech, as long as it's not inciting hate or things like that. But you should not be possibly getting fined for misinformation, especially if you think the misinformation is correct in the first place. So it's a juggling act there, and it's tough. I understand it, but they shouldn't be doing it. So here's the tech leader, David Marcus, suggested that it was reprehensible for the company to refuse service to customers because it finds their political views objectionable. Right. So this goes back to possibly misinformation, political views, and everything else. And here's a quote from him. "It's hard for me to openly criticize a company I used to love and gave so much to. But at PayPal's new AUP goes against everything I believe in." The cryptocurrency entrepreneur said Saturday. He also said a private company now gets to decide to take your money if you say something that they disagree with. Insanity. And I agree with that completely. If anything, they can suspend you for a while if you break the terms of use, obviously. They can ban you completely, but they should not have the opportunity to take any of your money that you've worked so hard for. So I agree with that. And then also Tech Titan Elon Musk replied, agreed, in a comment that has so far garnered 11,000 likes, right? So there's obviously a lot of backlash on that. Some have also called that Bitcoin actually fixes this. There's a bunch of tweets on this, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But the new conditions were scheduled to be added to the restricted activity section of the PayPal users agreement effective November 3rd. This was obviously reported by the Daily Wire, which first reported it. Changes included prohibitions on the sending, posting, or publication of any message, content, or materials that promote misinformation, right? People might get information which they don't know is misinformation, and if they repost it or something like that, well, now you got fined for it, which is crazy. So breaking the rule against misinformation and hate speech may subject you to damages, including liquidated damages of $2,500 per violation, which may be debited directly from your PayPal account. The company warned in a user agreement account holders accept and attest the penalty is presently a reasonable minimum estimate of PayPal's actual damages due to the expense the firm incurs by accounting for the violations as well as damage to its reputation. Right? It's just nonsense there. It's the users that are posting it, not the company, obviously. And people, I think, are smart enough to recognize that it's not the company that's doing it, but obviously if there's content on there that's questionable, objectionable, having to do with adult content that might not be correct, including possibly children or something like that. Obviously, I agree with that you got to get that off. You got to take that down, ban the people, whatever you got to do to it. That shouldn't be there. But political views, things like that, you may not agree with them, but it's the person that's actually writing out their own points of view or how they see things. They should not get banned, or, well, they might get banned for it, but they shouldn't at least get fined for it. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to see if there's anything. Nope, there's nothing else. Okay, so here is my thoughts on how Bitcoin solves this, or at least my questions on it. So let's take a look at, let's do this. Let's see if we can do this on here. Okay, so right now, the way we have it set up is if, I'm trying to think of a scenario how this could be fixed. Obviously, the easiest scenario is if you have two parties involved. You have person A, you have person B. They want to transact between each other, which is fine. They can do that. If I'm selling something, somebody else wants to buy it, they can transact it, and they can obviously use Bitcoin for it. Because then you're doing it in contact. You don't have distance between you where you're either sending stuff like that. But here's where the problem lies for me, that I think it's kind of hard for Bitcoin to fix this, at least currently in its current form. When was it? About a couple of weeks ago, I sold something on eBay. That package was going to be sent to LA. I live here around Chicago. For me to get paid on this package to get sent to LA, first, the LA person had to basically put the money down. So they basically paid for the product that I was selling. That went into eBay, right? eBay printed off for me basically a shipping label with tracking numbers. So they did that. So we got shipping. When I sent it out, that tracking number was included, obviously, in eBay's system. That went from me here. I shipped it out to LA. When the postal carrier delivered it, it got scanned and it got delivered, and a notification went to eBay that it was basically delivered. At that time, eBay gave me, or basically paid me for that sale, finally. So there's a lot going on in here in this, obviously, very complicated drawing here. But basically, I don't know how Bitcoin possibly can solve this. Um, there's just too many things going in here. I think the only way to solve this is if somehow you could have also Bitcoin and whether it's the shippers interact somehow with smart contracts or something like that that would make it feasible, possibly for it to work this way. Because right now, there is just no easy way to take a package and send it to a person somewhere else, right? Person A and person B. If I'm asking for this package, say $100, this person has to trust me that I'm going to send this package to him when I receive my $100, right? So there's no way of verification or anything like that the package was actually sent. So therein lies the problem going it this way. The other way would be for me to send the package first and then me relying on the person to actually send me the $100 after they receive the package. And there's no way of knowing that either. So both ways, people could get scammed out of money, basically. Money or their goods. So this doesn't obviously work either. So you almost need something that is an intermediary, whether it's like the carriers, the shippers. So what you really need to do is somehow get an API with the shippers or something like that where you have that shipping label. It has the tracking number on it. When the smart contract is created, that shipping number is in there. And then when the shipper actually delivers it to this customer, obviously from me, that gets triggered in the smart contract, and then that gets paid out to here. So you almost have to do this kind of thing where it goes here, here, and then out, right? Based on the smart contract, if that works. That's the only way I can think of it that would work possibly. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to work. And then Bitcoin solves it obviously for person-to-person interactions where things are capable of being done that way, where you have trust, where you're basically handing over somebody, they're handing you over cash or Bitcoins, then at that point that actually works. But other than that, I just don't know. Let me know what you guys think of this. This is a tough one, obviously. Bitcoin is supposed to be a trustless ledger, basically, between two parties. But sometimes when there's shipments being done or anything like that, you almost need like an intermediate, like a shipper or something like that can verify that something was received before the cash gets released basically to you from the person that's buying it. So that is it. That's my take on it. Obviously, I do not like the fact that PayPal even was discussing these types of things, which is unfortunate. And hopefully it sends a message to the other companies based on the backlash that they have seen to not even think about doing anything like that. But we'll see. Okay. So that's just my 2 cents on that. Like I said, let me know what you guys think of that. And let's get into the miners here. So the miners obviously some had a pretty good week. Some didn't have a very good week. But we'll take a look at it here nonetheless. Bitcoin was actually up for the second week in a row, which was kind of good. And that's based on the closing price of Bitcoin on Friday. That's kind of what we're going by here with. And we can see here Bitcoin was actually up 0.59% on the week. And then we have obviously these companies that were in the green. These were in the red here that did worse than Bitcoin for the week. And let's take a look at what we got here. So Bitcoin obviously was up 0.59%. Core Scientific was up 2.31. Soluna was up 2. DigiHost was up 2. Mawson was up 4. Marathon was up 4. Hut 8 was up actually 6. And DMG was up 16%. So a very good gain here for DMG. The following companies did worse was obviously Hive was actually at 0, but they're still did worse than Bitcoin. And you got Bit Digital down 1.6, Bitfarms down 2.8, Sphere down 3.8, CleanSpark was down 5, Riot was down 6.35, Iris was down 10, then you got Greenidge was down 13, and Argo was down 19. Obviously, we talked about Argo yesterday and them diluting more shares, which obviously tanked the stock yesterday. Went down 24% down on the day, which was a pretty bad day for them. So we kind of covered what's going on there. Iris could be contributable, not Iris, but Greenidge could be contributable to the shakeup that's going on within their company. They are having a new CEO and chief mining, I think, officer, something like that they're calling him. But that's happening there, and that's possibly why they're down a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now. It's basically worries from the investors is what I'm thinking. Now, if we look at the 4-week chart, we can see here that, let's take a look at it here. We can see that Bitcoin is actually, let's see, where's Bitcoin? Bitcoin is down 1.14%. Marathon is up 2.66. So Marathon has done best out of the 4 weeks. Then we got obviously Riot down 1.2, HUD down 2, Bit was down 7, DMG was down 9.1, Hive was down 11.1, Soluna was down 12.06, DigiHost was down 13.7, Bitfarms was down 17.7, Greenidge was down 19.0, CleanSpark was down 19.2, Argo was down 24, Core is down 26, Iris is down 26, Moss is down 27, and Sphere 3D is down 27, almost 28. So it's been a rough couple weeks here for the miners and the market in general. And then let's take a quick look at the 8 weeks. So sort of descending. We can see Bitcoin's down 6.4%, 6.3%. Then everybody else obviously did worse than Bitcoin here. Riot was down 9.4%. Marathon was down 14, was 15. HUT was down 18. DMG was down 22. Bit Digital was down 24. Iris down 26, Hive down 28, DigiHost down 30, Bitfarms down 32, CleanSpark down 34, Argo down 37, Mawson was down 38, Sphere was down 40, 42 for Greenidge, 46 for Core, and Soluna was down 47. And finally on the 12-week chart, let's take a look at it here. Bitcoin is down 13.95%, so Marathon has done a little bit better. It's down only 9.7. Riot was down 7.7, HUD is down 7.7, Hive is down 4.3, and Iris is down 1.59 from 12 weeks ago. And then we got obviously DMG down 20, Bitfarms is down 23, Core is down 27, CleanSpark 29, Argo 32, 35 for Bit Digital. DigiHost was down 40 along with Sphere 3D. Greenidge was 41, Mawson was 52, and Soluna is down 62. So it's been obviously a rough couple weeks here for the miners. We can see here obviously that Bitcoin is up just barely on the last 2 weeks. It was up 0.7 the prior week, up 0.59 this week. And then we've had obviously two down weeks, one green, 3 more down weeks, and then we had a mix here. So we can see here that going back to 8/12 is the last time we pretty much had any kind of a rally here in several weeks. Going back to 8/5, 7/29, and 7/22, we saw a couple of weeks where we were in the green here in the miners, which the miners went up quite nicely during that time. After that, we've been falling down here as a rock in a river, with everybody coming down in price. Had somewhat of a good month or a good week on 9/9. Had a pretty green week across the board, and then a mixed week, obviously last week with the miners as well. It looks like the majority of them were up a little bit compared to the rest. So that is it. We will continue to cover the miners, see what's going on there. We still have quite a few miners to report the September numbers. We're still waiting on Argo. Argo obviously said they're going to provide it, I think, the next week on Tuesday, I believe. Bit Digital, we're also waiting on them. Greenidge, Mawson, and Soluna as well. So we'll see how those guys come out. Once they report all the numbers, we'll do a miner versus miner, see how they did. And I may also do like a quick battle between the miners here, taking the 2 largest ones, 2 smallest ones, doing a little battle, see which one comes out on top. But that's something that's possibly going to be working on. So that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And spreadsheets available to my Patreon members as always. Thank you to everyone there for their continued support. Love you all. Hope you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you in the next one. Until then,